Joining in, we're just going to start right away. First off, we're going to start with the opening remarks from Olashubumi Shofora, the CEO of Woven Impact Network. So, yeah.
At Woven Impact Network, we believe that when grassroots women thrive, communities rise with them. So far, we have trained over 100 women and girls in Nigeria, helping them gain business skills, grow their confidence, and launch or scale their businesses. Through our Women Win program, women are learning digital tools, financial literacy, and building income-generating ventures that support entire families.
My name is Adedun Shitu. I'm the program advisor for Woven Impact Network. It's been over 2 years I've been working as program advisor, and it's been a wonderful experience. We've had various programs ranging from the Youth Connect to the Women Empowerment Program, where we train women on how to manage, market, and sustain their businesses. So currently, we're training women, over 16 women, on how they can, manage their business, and it has been such a great experience seeing micro business women that had no idea on how to market their business, become so enlightened and getting, good feedback and even able to help themselves and their family at large. So I'm super excited about what is to come and what we're doing. So you can just support us by volunteering, partnering, or just reaching out to us via our Instagram account and all. And it's been a wonderful experience so far, and we look forward to, impacting more lives, even in other communities. Thank you.
Mommy class captain. I'm very, very grateful for what Impact Network has brought to us. I'm very grateful and very happy. So I thank you so much. Wow.
Muted. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
If you can hear me, amazing.
Yes.
Thank you, Ife Olua. I'm so delighted to be here. And from wherever in the world you're joining from, I would say good day. Welcome to our International Women's Day event. And this webinar is a very special one because when women come together, you know that magic definitely happens. And it's my immense pleasure to convene this IWD conversation organized by Woven Impact Network. As you've seen the video that preceded me speaking, just give a snapshot about who we are, what we do, and how we're trying in our own little way to just add, to the role of gender equality and empowering women. I'm deeply grateful to our remarkable speakers, as you've seen, our moderator as well, Miriam, and all participants joining from different parts of the world. This year's theme, Give to Gain, it reminds us of a powerful truth, that progress rarely happens in isolation, right? Every opportunity we receive, every door that opens, and every milestone we reach is often connected to someone who chose to give us an opportunity, or someone who chose to invest their time, their knowledge, and support or believe in us. At the same time, saying that, I'm not going to rule out the concept of you putting in the work as well. It's also important to acknowledge the dedication, the preparation, and consistent effort that every one of us need to bring to our own journeys, right? Support may open doors, but it's the work that we do, often quietly, consistently, that allows us to walk through those doors and make meaningful contributions once we share. So at Woven Impact Network, we believe that when women are equipped with the right tools, the right knowledge and community, they are not only able to advance their own aspirations, but they also become catalysts for change in their families, in their workplace, and in their communities. So today's discussions bring together leaders who have each contributed to advancing women's leadership, economic inclusion, and impact across different sectors. And our hope is that their insights, their experiences, and practical strategies will inspire all of us to think about how we can intentionally give in ways that expand opportunities for others, right? So also be able to shatter the glass ceiling. Because when women invest in each other, the ripple effect extends beyond you as a person. It helps strengthen communities, it helps strengthen institutions and economies. And it's our charge for you today. And that's what this whole conversation is all about. And I'm really, really grateful to all our esteemed speakers that we have here. I can see all their beautiful faces for taking time out of your very busy schedule to be here. And one of the things we've decided to do is that this particular session, we're not going to take so much of your time. We're going to delve into the panel sessions and really dig deep and have those conversations, sharing our own life experiences as well. So thank you once again for being here. And I'll hand it over back to our MC, Bolu Shofora. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ibumi, for that opening remark. And also thank you for the work that you do with Woven Impact. Before we go into the reason why we're here, I will just introduce our panelists for today. Just waiting for this to come up. Our first panelist for today is just give me a moment. Okay. Okay, so our first panelist for today is Olubumi Abejirin, a customer experience and retail sales expert. Bumi is a senior telecommunications executive and customer experience leader with over 2 decades of experience in customer strategy, retail operations, and business growth. She serves as general manager, customer experience, and high value at Airtel Nigeria, where she leads customer-centric transformation and high value client engagement. Just give me a moment. Known for her strategic leadership, she has built a strong career across leading telecom organizations, including Airtel Nigeria and Globalcom Limited. She's also a passionate advocate for leadership development and women's advancement. Moving on to the second speaker of today, we have Naomi Umokolo, CEO and Executive Director, UN Global Compact Network Nigeria, a globally recognized sustainability leader, dual licensed USA and Nigerian attorney, and CEO Executive Director of the United Nations Global Compact Network Nigeria. Naomi is at the forefront of advancing sustainable business practices and driving meaningful impact through initiatives that support the Sustainable Development Goals in Nigeria. From championing human rights and justice to leading one of the world's largest corporate sustainability initiatives, Naomi's work continues to shape responsible business and development across Africa. Her leadership has positioned the UN Global Compact Network Nigeria as a strong voice for sustainability and positive change. And I'll be moving on to the third panelist of today. We have Adori Udechukwu, Senior Gender Advisor, Africa International Finance Corporation. Adori Udechukwu is the Senior Gender Advisor for Africa at the International Finance Corporation, IFC. With 17 years of experience in the financial services sector, her work focuses on advancing women's financial inclusion and introducing gender gaps in employment and entrepreneurship across African markets. She previously led the Women's Market Program at Access Bank PLC, supporting women entrepreneurs across several African countries. Through these initiatives, thousands of women-owned businesses gained access to finance and capacity building programs that strengthened their participation in the economy. And also, I'll just be giving a brief, and also I've been moving on to just give me a moment, sorry. Also, a brief introduction on Olashibumi Shufura, the founder of Woven Impact Network. Shibomi is a transformational leader and strategic community builder with nearly 2 decades of experience across the brand communications, marketing, and agro-allied industries. She is known for crafting compelling narratives and leading initiatives that drive social impact and community empowerment. She is the founder of Woven Impact Network, a nonprofit dedicated to empowering nano women entrepreneurs through the Women Win program, equipping women with the knowledge and capacity to achieve economic stability. Shubomi is the author of Medcap Them Chapters, a journey of becoming a transformational book that inspires readers to embrace change, live intentionally, and grow in the best versions of themselves. And so our moderator for today, who is Miriam Lawani, secular economy and sustainability specialist. Miriam Lawani is a sustainability strategist and circular economy advocate with 18 years of experience spanning the education and waste management sectors. Her work focuses on advancing the circular economy as a driver for sustainable growth, a perspective she has shared at Michigan State University on CNN and across global panels and podcasts. Currently advancing her expertise at the University of Toronto, she works to translate complex sustainability and ESG goals into practical community impact. Through her work, she supports individuals and communities, particularly women, to lead with clarity, confidence, and a commitment to more. Yes. So moving straight into the program of today, I'll be passing it to Miriam Lawani to take us into why we're here today.
Thank you so much, Bolu, for the warm introduction and good day to everyone. I understand that people are joining from different parts of the world. Thank you to our panelists for joining this very important conversation today. As you can tell, I'm joined by 4 powerhouses. But I mean, one thing that strikes me as I look at the panel, I see more than just titles or global accolades that Bolu just read, right? I see a living map of what actually happens when intentional investment meets ambition. But that's not even the most exciting part. Despite all the massive achievements that we've all, listened to, each of these women on the panel are still evolving. They're still learning, they're still pivoting, and they're still investing in the next version of themselves. And that's our charge today. We're not just here to admire their finished product, right? We're here to look at the process. We're going to, excuse me, deconstruct their stories to find the practical guidance and the leadership blueprints and some action steps that we can take back to our own contexts today. So get out your notepads and your, writing materials and be ready to take notes. I'll begin with Ada. I hope she's ready for me. Okay, I see her smile. She's ready. She was born ready. Okay, so I'll begin with you, Ada. You have led flagship programs, that bridge the gender gap in Nigeria's private sector. Through your work, you demonstrate that when we invest intentionally in one woman, we're not just funding a business, we're de-risking an entire sector for those who follow. But would like to know today, looking back on your own journey, how has the act of giving, whether through mentorship, through sponsorship or support, how has giving shaped your own growth as a leader?
Thanks a lot for that question. So we're talking about what what forms of giving have shaped my career, I imagine. And you mentioned mentorship, sponsorship, etc. So for me, I usually tell the story of, and thanks Shubumi for inviting me for this session and everyone for joining. Um, Shubumi had requested for this to be, practical, relatable stories. So I'm going to take the storytelling approach. So I'm just going to share um, from the half, first decade of my career, how, the several leaders that shaped my career and how they gave for that to happen. I'm a product of many gifts, if we put it that way. And very early on in my career, of course, not taking away the work that I had to put in. Of course, being diligent. We're assuming that everyone that is listening has met the basics of being diligent with their work, being on top of their game, and just being competent at what they do. So as those assumptions are being made. For me, over and above that, I think in a competitive industry like banking and a more competitive organization like Access, which is an outlier in Nigeria's banking industry, one of the things that I gained from was an early recognition of my work and I usually say before the term sponsorship was coined, I already enjoyed uh, the benefits of sponsorship in my career because I had leaders who had taken note of what I was doing and took it upon themselves to showcase and ensure that, there was visibility for what was being done. Now, I would say that give to gain is both ways. So you give of yourself to the institution and to the work that you're doing, and then you gain from others through sponsorship and mentorship. Was it an easy drill? It wasn't. For those who I would say adopted me within the institution as proteges, right? I had a director, and I'll be very specific. I had a director within the institution that, was constantly using my work as an example. At some point, because of the kind of work that I had done, I had received commendations from our clients and customers, and this was, really showcased within the institution. I'd also given to the institution through initiatives and innovations that sort of shaped how the direction in which the organization was going. So strategic contributions to the organization is also something that created that for lack of a better word, the attraction of sponsorship and mentors, because nobody wants to people typically gravitate towards success. You don't want to sponsor or mentor a material that doesn't have the capacity to absorb what you want to give. So I think first of all is making ourselves that fungible resource that can take on the support that is required, that can take on what is being poured into us, and that can really deliver on what we learn. So throughout that period, I had this several leaders, contribute by ensuring that I was making advancements, ensuring that the contributions that I was making were being showcased within the organization. So it's one thing to make the contributions, it's another thing for people around you to spotlight, those contributions. Now, bringing that forward, what I'm doing as an individual and what I've done as a leader myself in my own leadership practice is to apply the same for the mentees in my network, wherein they're able to leverage my network, they're able to leverage my own personal resource in terms of knowledge and time. And even people within my own business are able to benefit from what I enjoyed, when I was growing in my career. So there's been a lot of gaining on my own side, but there's also in reciprocating a lot of giving that we need to do as individuals. And of course, as we receive freely, we also give freely of that kind of support to those around us. I'll pause here and pass this back to you, Mariam.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you for sharing. I hope we're taking down notes. I like that you said in your own leadership experience now you're paying that forward. But I have a follow-up question to that, thoughts that you've shared with us. Many women struggle with overgiving, right? So even maybe sometimes to the point of burnout. So as you pay forward what has been poured into you, deposited into you, mentorship, sponsorship, others identifying the value in your work, in your diligence, your competence, highlighting all of that, right? As you pay that forward into other women, how do you distinguish between giving, how do you ensure that you're giving in a way that you yourself don't burn out, that your own capacity isn't drained? You know what I mean? What's your personal investment criteria? Where are the areas that you actually put in your energy when you want to pay it forward?
Thanks, Mariam. That's a very, very a brilliant question, and thanks for that follow-on. Remember that when I spoke earlier, I talked about in terms of receiving, preparing ourselves to be able to absorb what is being given, right? Very important because it's and I'm sure you probably might have had this kind of experience. It could be frustrating to give and not see the results yield. That's one. So I'll say three things. One is identifying the right soil to sow in, right? Because you don't want to sow on hard ground. So for me, once I have the first or second engagement with people around me, I am able to identify potential. And I think most of us in this room are able to identify potential. And in being able to identify potential is also in ourselves being able to be that potential that people can identify, right? That's one. So when you identify potential in the first one or two engagements, you can tell that the person you're working with is willing to put in the work, is willing to go the extra mile to implement some of the things that you're discussing. I've had people around me who, for instance, I have nudged to ensure that they go get their masters done. I have nudged to apply for certain roles. I have nudged and supported to take on roles that they did not feel ready for. If there was no follow-on action, then you can drop gently to protect your own energy, right? That's one. Two is identifying when your energy is being drained. And I'll give a very, very personal example. I used to have
Fantastic.
this mentee in my circle. I used to have this mentee in my circle who, every time she would come, and because once I start pouring, I just keep pouring, right? We would speak for sometimes 45 minutes. And then I'll agree action points with this person. The next time we're meeting, we're coming back to the same thing, we'll talk for another, when you get off a conversation and you feel like your battery is
You're
on
exhausted, you're drained.
on one, yes. And you kind of like need 2 days to recover. So I personally am an introvert, although I don't appear to be one because I have to perform as an extrovert. But as an introvert, you know that your social energy limit is quite, drains very quickly and you need time to recover. So for me, every time I have these conversations, I have to recover personally. But I quickly identified that this was an energy draining relationship, right? Now, I didn't just like dump this person. It was about laying them down slowly. Okay, so we've had this conversation, go get it done, and then, gradually cut the umbilical cord, right? That's two. Then the third thing I would say, so I've talked about identifying potential, ensuring that you're sowing in the right ground. The second thing is identifying energy drainers, with the same keen eye that you identify potential. So if you're putting into an engagement that is not yielding, don't be too sentimental to disconnect. But of course, disconnect gently without breaking people. And then the third is really investing in my own personal development because sometimes you you give so much as at some point you're asking yourself, do I even know? I mean, am I up to date? I need to, sharpen my own skill. I need to sharpen my own reasoning, right? So I read a lot of books. I read a lot of journals. I try to be as quiet as possible if I don't have to talk, because that helps me to really reflect on what I have learned, what I'm learning, what I'm practicing. I follow a very reflective uh, way of living. So at the end of each day, I reflect on the day and I, pull out what could have happened differently, what I could have done better. That is part of my own leadership practice. It's something that I'll recommend for others to adopt because it helps you to quickly identify what is working, not working, and not carry it on, to the next day or the next month. I'll pause there so that I don't take up more time, but I hope that answered your question.
Brilliantly, it did. Well done. That's a beautiful response. And since you don't like to talk when you don't have to, would let you off the hook for a bit so you can recover from all that you've poured out thus far. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ada. Okay, so I'll move on to Naomi very, very quickly. I hope we're learning. I usually don't like a quiet session, so I'd like to see emojis. I'd like to see messages, nuggets that you're pulling out from this in the chat, so we know we're not just speaking to ourselves, right? Even though we don't see you on camera, let's be sure that you're there. So please engage. Thank you. Naomi, you embody the concept of authentic leadership by bridging the gap between high-level United Nations policies and local action, right? You're able to do that. However, despite all the progress that has been made, women hold only about 28% of senior leadership roles globally. That's alarming. And women-led startups receive less than 3% of global venture capital funding. If you could ask every woman in leadership today to give one thing to the next generation of women, what would it be and why?
Thank you, Mariam, and thanks, Shubumi, for this platform. Thanks, Ada, for your earlier comments. It's really been insightful. And yes, to your question, I'd say in line with our conversation for today, I'll say it's really share your time, knowledge, and advocacy because we really live in trying times for gender advancement globally and also locally. We see everything going on in our country when it comes to advancement of women's rights in the workplace, in the marketplace, in the community, in the government. We see all of that playing out and how it affects women. So I'd say that many leading women today have gained from mentorship, including myself. So if we have to give something to the next generation, we have to be a sponsor and a voice in the room. Recently, I think it was last week or so, I heard the First Lady of Nigeria, Senator Remi Tinubu, talking about encouraging women to pick up a mentor. Just try and do one thing for your fellow woman, and that is very, very helpful because guiding the next generation will help us to navigate challenges faster. It will help us to seize opportunities both globally, locally, and build our confidence, which is very crucial. And I would say that also relates to my personal experience, because mentorship and sponsorship have really supported me a lot. I mean, very pivotal to my own journey, starting from the grassroots, which is my family. Growing up, I received a lot of support from my parents, my older ones, and that really shaped who I am today, built a lot of my confidence. My career journey, I'd say I'll consider myself an early bloomer. Like I started pretty much very early and beginning to sit in a leadership position in my mid-20s. It was a lot because I had to sit in the middle of a lot of high-level executives, and confidence goes a long way when you find yourself in that position. And then I always tell myself there's a Latin word that we call amat victoria curam, which means are you prepared for what you prayed for? So you have to be prepared to meet the opportunities, because if you're not, even let me say, I was going to say, whoever can encourage you today, whoever it is, the person you regard the most can be your mentor, but it will not go anywhere because you're not prepared to take on that opportunity. So you always have to be prepared to sit in those spaces. But then again, so when you give your expertise, you give your willingness to grow and grow in wherever you find yourself, your career, your personal life, and you see and your mentors see that, they want to be able to support you. So that's where that Amat's Korea, Victoria Kuram comes in. So as women, each act of giving, whether we are giving advice, whether we're giving opportunities or encouragement, it will help expand everyone's perspective and strengthen their skills. And I also come from a very interesting career background as an attorney. I see that I do not hesitate to encourage or mentor younger lawyers. And that's because I think from the Nigerian perspective, most of the attorneys I've spoken with, they have this idea that you just have to be in the courtroom. You have to go to the court, you have to litigate, that's where it ends. And people are looking at, oh, I want to practice law for 10 years and I become a judge. But there's more to life than that. The international community calls for lawyers. Even we that sit in the corporate sustainability space, I keep telling young lawyers as well as even older lawyers that this is a space for lawyers, right? So I begin to encourage younger lawyers to see law beyond the courtroom and also policy, but beyond the courtroom and policy, and how contributing to international regulations and frameworks can also shape the impactful work that they do as attorneys. So I think that that mentorship, it helps a lot, and I will continue to encourage women to invest in other women and mentor them. Everybody needs support in one way or other, and in that way, we could begin to see meaningful progress of women participation, even from entry level to senior leadership. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. Share your time, advice, encourage, handhold, mentor, sponsor. Those are truly powerful gifts. But we often hear that, the hardest thing, especially for women to give, is the truth about the struggle, right? A lot of women don't like to, I don't know if it's fear of being vulnerable, but most women don't actually like to say the truth about the struggle that they're going through. What do you think about that in your own experience or your journey?
Thank you. I would not encourage anybody to affiliate themselves with people who are not truthful about their life journey, and especially mentors should be mindful when everybody sounds like it's rosy, because it's not rosy. It's not rosy. It's actually very tough. And if you're somebody who is ambitious and you prepare yourself and you expand your opportunities, you're resilient. I think that's the word. You keep applying for roles, even if you get like 100 rejection. You need to be able to document these stories to the people you are talking to. so they do not give up, right? I know, I think 2 weeks ago, a friend of mine called me and she said, my younger cousin has always wanted to be in the United Nations system. Please talk to her. She has a very great job, but she wants to work in the UN. So I said, okay, of course, I'm happy to get into that conversation. So we got on a call and we spoke for long. And this is a very brilliant young woman. And she kept telling me, oh, she's applied for 3, 4 roles. She got tired. I said, do you have an account with Inspire? She says she does, but she seems like there's a lot going on there. And I know the UN HR system have tried to simplify application processes. So I started telling her my personal experience that from about 2015 when I was called to the Nigerian bar up to 2019, I can't tell you the number of rejections I've gotten from the various UN sector departments, legal department applying for roles. When I apply, I get a rejection. After 2 months, I'm back in there. Like once it's time to go home, my colleagues are saying that it's close of business and they're heading home. And they said, well, Naomi, what are you doing? I said, I'm applying for jobs. It was funny because I was in a job, but it was not right to tell your friends you're applying for jobs, right? So they don't think maybe they may report that you're planning to leave or something. But I was seeing myself beyond where I currently was. So all the rejections I got, in fact, my friends who know me, including Shugumi, will tell you my word is always we move. So when I get a rejection, I just like, we move onto the we move is onto the next application. So it's always good to tell people how you got to where you were, even if it took 5 years, 3 years, 4 years, you kept applying. So when I was telling this mentee of mine, and I was telling her, like, this is what is going on, and this is how much applications. If you want me to show you my email, because whenever I get a rejection, I'll go put in an Excel. So it reminds me of how the struggle started. I said, I can show you. She said, are you serious? You don't mean it? I said, yes, it was a lot. So if you get 3, 4 rejections, you're just starting. It's great that you have a job and your spare time, you're applying for roles, but don't give up because you got 6 rejections. What's that? That's too small. So it's always good to document, tell people the actual story because that is what will empower them to keep on keeping on. But if you tell somebody, oh, I just put in here and I got it, you've just destroyed that person because they're not empowered to be resilient. So I think that as women, even men, but let's focus on women on this conversation, we need to really empower the younger generation by telling them the truth of how things were, how the rough patches and how we worked and how we got to where we were. And even if you're in the position to get opportunities, you have to also tell people that this is what prepared you for the opportunities. In that way, you're really shaping their life trajectory and you're supporting them to advance in their career in the right way. So yeah, being truthful goes a long way. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. Thank you, Naomi. Document your story and the struggles, especially the struggles. It's part of the
Yeah.
journey, right? I hope we're taking notes. Okay. Thank you so much. Olubumi. I need to be careful with Olashibomi and Olubumi. So I'll just go with Shibomi. Olubumi, I'll come on to you now. You're strong, you through your work, you strongly advocate that organizations should treat their female talent with the same intentionality and retention focus that they give their most valued customers. So I'd like you to share a bit for participants who want to champion gender diversity and inclusion within their organizations. What strategic approaches can they take to drive meaningful progress? Over to you.
Thank you, Miriam. Thank you, Miriam. Can you hear me?
Yes, sure, we can.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Ada, Naomi, your stories have been inspiring. And thank you to Women Impact for inviting me. And thank you for Shubumi. I really appreciate. I will go back a little bit. I heard what Ada said. I loved the fact that she said you have to be able to accept what's been poured into you. I call it elasticity. You need to identify the elastic people and the inelastic people. So Ada said, don't waste your time on inelastic people. However, look for those who are elastic. They expand just like your rubber band, and they can take more. Naomi was very particular about the truth, about the struggles. For example, there was a time in my life I resumed every Sunday at 6 p.m. and I would walk into the night so that by the time I reached the office on Monday, it's as if it's just a continuation. So the struggle is real, and I myself have been a recipient of Give to Gain. There's so many women leaders. I'm so lucky that I have had over a decade. This is like the second time I'm having a male boss. I've always had women bosses, and contrary to my upbringing, we were brought up not to blow trumpets, be meek, but I'm going to make the exception today and call out the names of the women that opened the door for me. They mentored me, supported me, and advocated for me. I'm going to start with my mother, of course. She was very tough on me. I'm the firstborn, and she had a lot of expectations. Being a lady, how you sit, how you pull in your stomach, how you walk with your head high. Don't walk like a dog. Put your foot in front like this. So all those, at first I thought it was bad, but looking back now, I'm glad she did. It has helped me with my composure as a woman. Then to the work experience, Mrs. Shadio Lushokwe, she told me one day I was the weakest link in her team. And then I went to meet her and said, how do I not be the weakest link? And that's how she took me under her wing and she taught me. It was tough. She's a tough teacher, but I learned. Shade Olusope, then I've had Olubanjo Modupe. She's also very important. Tolusope Awofeko, she was my boss when I moved from Globacom to ETA. Veronica Onoja as well. And currently my HRD, the person of Adebimpe Elias. These women have advocated for me, and I'm grateful to them. And what do? I now reciprocate that advocacy. But back to your question about what should be done. If you understand, I just needed to put that out there
Thank
because
you.
normally I wouldn't, but I'm making the conscious effort to give them their flowers on this platform. So for individuals and organizations that want to, ensure diversity is part and parcel of their business as usual, diversity and inclusion of women should not be something that is special. It should be part of the business strategy. And number one, they need to make it a measurable KPI. They need to own it. They need to grow from intention to structured programs. They need to make sure that it's something that is measurable. For example, we did say 28% of women leadership in organizations. So with that benchmark, the organization, like my organization, is tracking how women enter into the leadership team. Usually it's men that are usually in the leadership team. For example, there was an exercise that was done, another International Women's Day exercise. We were asked to close our eyes and imagine a successful CEO. By the time we opened our eyes, we were asked to check what were they wearing, what was their shoe like, what was everything. At the end of the day, most people envisage the man. So we need to get to a point where leadership has no gender. We just have leaders. And that is when you make it measurable and the leadership table is open for women to be mentored, to be sponsored, and to be advocated for, to enter, to shatter the glass ceiling. Institutionalized sponsorship. Mentorship is good. You're told how to do it. You're given all the ropes. For me, mentorship was about pouring the knowledge that I had into those people. However, we shouldn't stop at mentorship. Sponsorship is stronger than mentorship. It's the higher institution. If mentorship was primary school, secondary school was sponsorship. You particularly sponsor, like Ada said, everybody here has taken the hard work, ready to do the work. That is a given. You can't be a woman leader if you are not ready to do that. So sponsoring means taking this person, looking at their career trajectory and mapping it out that this is the next level of your upward mobility. Sponsor them into the next level. Like Ada said, identify the skill gaps, the knowledge gap, and the attitudinal gaps that are there. Help them to fill that gap in preparation for the next level. So if it means going back to school, if it means, learning a skill, if it means taking a course, if it means joining an organization, an association, help them to see because you have already gone ahead of them. And you know that if you're going to be, for example, the head of brands, you need to be able to do A, B, C. And if you want to become a HR, then you move to the next level in your HR career, you might need to do some Chartered Institute of Personnel Management exams. So identify it, sponsor them, and once you've equipped them, you bring them to the table. And then lastly, you need to make sure that we build inclusive talent pipelines. It's not enough to say, okay, women at the leadership. If women are the leadership and there are no more women coming into the talent pipeline, they will come and they will go. And the workplace, especially where I am, the telecommunication space, is male dominated. So it is a conscious effort by any organization or individuals to make sure that women who qualified women, are brought into the talent pipeline. It is that talent pipeline where you have top talents that you have identified that can feed the leadership, women on the leadership table. Because at the end of the day, if women are not on that leadership table, I'm not sure any organization can confidently say they're being diverse and inclusive. One thing that resonates with me, I think I've mentioned it, I'm going to mention it now, was a quote by Sheryl Sandberg. She's the former CEO of Meta Platforms. She said, in the future, there will be no female leaders. We will only have leaders. And I also like to check on other women who've done things. So some of the mentors I have, they don't know I'm their mentee. One person that really resonates with me is Indra Nui. Indra Nui was the 12-year CEO of PepsiCo. And in her book, My Life in Full, it was very open. Like Ada said, she told about the struggle. But the truth is, we need to all give back as we have been receiving. So give to gain is good, but I think we should look at the impact. The impact of the giving is has a multiplier effect. And once we are institutionalizing um, sponsorship, we're institutionalizing inclusiveness, and we're ensuring that the pipeline is there, women leadership becomes the norm. It's not an exception. Now, Miriam, I hope I've been able to answer your question.
You have over and beyond.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
giving the people who deserved their flowers. Thank you for giving them their flowers. That was actually
Thank you.
very special. So clearly, I mean, what I can pull out from all that you've shared, if we want to champion gender diversity, we must move from intention to structured intervention. Gender diversity does not sit in isolation, right? It has to be part of your business strategy. We only have leaders. Leadership has no gender. Well done. And we need to also ensure that um, there's a talent pipeline of women who are ready to put in the work and succeed, continue that journey as we move on in leadership. Thank you so much for sharing those nuggets. Appreciated. Now to Olushubomi. The woman that has brought all of us here, the powerful woman who has dragged all these powerhouses together. Thank you, Shubomi. Over to you. Through your work with Woven Impact Network, you just don't train women, right? You build resilient ecosystems. Ada has talked about resilience, Bumi just spoke also about resilience. By writing your story in merged chapters, you imply that our most potent advocacy tool is our vulnerability. You shared your struggle, with imposter syndrome, and the act of justice for the women that are coming behind you. But we know that leadership often doesn't start when we feel ready, right? What helped you step into leadership and begin advocating for change in your field, in your work? And what advice would you give women who want to do the same today?
Thank you so much, Miriam, for that very, very great question, I'll say. And once again, I'm delighted to be here. And it's just, amazing hearing all that Bumi, Ada, and Naomi have said. So for me, basically, leadership often starts even before we feel fully ready to. It's not until you become a manager that you're a leader, right? There's this quote that I live by, and it just guides me through whenever it is that I need to do anything or on a job or on a project, which is whatever thy hand finds to do, you do with all your might, right? And there's certain qualities that I would also first and foremost summarize, and then I would tell a story of, my leadership journey, And for me, the acronym is LEADS, which, I call it learning, having a learning mindset. So for you to be a leader, you have to have that mindset that you're continuously learning. You have to have a mind for wanting to soak in information, for wanting to learn each time an opportunity comes or a project comes. I've had to work on projects through my career where it wasn't really my business, but I just jumped on those projects because I knew that was an opportunity for me to learn and to be seen. So and I'll give an example in my role at Flour Mills as the brand marketing and programs manager. Um, there were times that because I worked with a boss that was involved in a lot of group level projects, we tend to have conversations around those projects, and I'm quick to say, oh yes, I can help out. Oh yes, I can be a part of this. And what that did for me is it made it easy for me to be seen. It made it easy for me to begin to build a rapport with those at executive management level up onto the level of the chairman of the organization, because these are group level, projects. If I was just like, okay, it's none of my business, I'm just a brand marketing and program manager, let me just focus on my job, I don't want extra load on my plate and everything, that wouldn't have given me the opportunity to be seen, shortly after I joined the organization. Also, another important quality is empathy. A lot of times we do not really know the essence of being empathetic. And empathy, it involves you understanding people, it understands you understanding perspectives and experiences, being able to, and I'll tie that to emotional intelligence to a level, knowing when to speak, when not to speak, knowing when to act and not to act, choosing your battles, and choosing when to blow your trumpet, when to be, when to pull back a bit, depending on where you are at a particular point in time. So I think empathy is very important as well, as a leader, as well as, accountability. If we are giving little and you're not accountable for that little, how then do you receive even much more? So taking ownership of opportunities that are given to you and doing it diligently and being accountable for it, is very important in you, actually, being ready even before you're called to leadership. And I tie that also to discipline, the times that you have big dreams, you have big goals, there are things you want to achieve in life. But hey, there are steps to, get into that point that you want to get to. So are you intentional? Is there a level of intentionality in your everyday, or are you just, oh, I'm just working, let me work and get my paycheck at the end of the month? So is that consistency? When people think about you, do they see that, is your brand positioned in a way that people are able to say that, when you hand over that project to Shubumi, don't worry, you can go to sleep. So is there consistency? And are you preparing enough? Are you even doing the work, even when you're not visible yet? It's not until, so all the women you see, high flyers that we want to be like, that we see as our role model, that we want them to mentor us, they've put in the work, even when no one was looking. And that's a very, 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 very important, quality that you need to have. Because just, as a farmer sowing a seed, for example, no one is watching you when you put in that seed into the soil, when you're constantly watering, adding, you're constantly nourishing the soil, you're, weeding the land and doing, that's hard work. But what you see as an output is, oh, there's maize that is being harvested. But there's a lot of hard work that has gone into the maize that you see. Corn that you're buying, or the bolly that you're buying on the road, there's work that has gone into ensuring that that happens. So, that discipline and consistency is something that is very important. And I cannot overemphasize the act of service. For me, it has worked, right? I tell people over time that I always come from a place of service, but one also has to be careful whereby you don't burn out. So there are times that I would jump on opportunities because I can see like the bigger picture. It might not make sense at the start, but then I diligently serve. And I find out that in the process of doing that, I even then latch onto bigger opportunities. And I'll give an example very quickly, so I don't take so much of your time. While in my role at Flour Mills, there was an opportunity, and because I was diligent in my craft and doing everything I did, there was an opportunity to be an advisor to one of the UN SDG advocates. And I got recommended by my boss to step into that role. He didn't think that, if I recommend, Shubumi, it means that she's going to like drop the ball on her job, because I was in a full-time job, but he knew it was something I could carry. It wasn't a paid opportunity, it was volunteering. But for me, I said, do you know what? I'm going to do this. I actually even requested for it because he was the one being considered, and he said he was busy and he couldn't do it. And right there and then I said, oh, I can do this. And I started selling myself, I do this, I do that, through my work at ISEC, and all of that, because I'd invited him to one of my ISEC conferences prior to that time. So he knew about all the things, all the work. So I showed him the workings. That's what I can say. And he was like, okay, I'll need to get approval and all of that, and he did that, and I got the approval, and I got an email, him introducing me to this person in question, which is someone that I never thought I would meet or would know my name. And, and he sent the email introducing me, and he replied saying, oh, a pleasure meeting you. The day I saw that email, my heart just gladdened, because it was an opportunity for me. And, it's person of the former, Central Bank of Nigeria Governor, His Highness Mohammed Sanusi II. And through that, I worked with him through his advocacy. He was a UNSG advocate for 4 years. I worked with him, I supported him. We went for high-level meetings together. Whenever we have the UN General Assembly, I would take out of my annual leave, because it's not official work, to do that. And in that process, I remember a lady once asked me and said, is His Highness paying you for what you're doing? And I'm like, no. She's like, you must have plenty of money to be doing free work and all of that. And I just smiled, but I knew, like, it was a process. And through that, I was able to meet up with, people that, people that are at a level that on a normal day, if I was just in my job, I wouldn't meet. And to an extent, it opened my mind to global perspective. It opened my mind to sustainable development. And it was in that process that I birthed Woven Impact Network, and along that process also, we set up an initiative in his name to combat education in, sub-Saharan Africa. And through that, I began to receive rewards for the work that I've done, So service is very key, but just as Adam mentioned earlier, know the soil that, know the soil that you need to sow in. It has to be fertile soil, not, and through intentionality and, through you being intentional, you would know those soil. By the time you have 1 contact, 2 contacts, 3 contacts, you would know when to pull out, and you will know when to continue in that journey. So I'll just stop there now. and answer all that questions so I don't take so much of your time because there's so much to say.
I know. It's amazing how we've even gone past the hour. I was like, where did all the time go? And there's still so much to pour out, right? Thank you so much for sharing your journey. So something that stood out for me, identifying the soil can go either way, right? So either as a mentor or even as a mentee, identifying where to latch onto because you see the big picture. I mean, see the ripple effect of all of that years after, right? And also identifying as a mentor the right soil to pour into so you're not, you're not drained. I thank you so much. I'm certain that this webinar is being recorded because we need to actually go back and listen and just draw from it after the session. So very quickly, we don't want this to go too far into the next hour because we understand that we're very busy people and our time is precious. So I'll go around all the panelists again, just very quickly, briefly, if you can. We know you have so much to say, but if you can just, share the abbreviated version with us, we'll be very excited, and grateful. So Olubumi, I know you just spoke, so I would ask you this question very quickly, and then I'll go to Ada and we'll wrap up with Naomi. Many women struggle with visibility or confidence. I mean, you've stated it yourself. You're in a predominantly male, dominated industry, and I can only imagine, what you've had to deal with, ensuring that you're visible and to show up with that confidence that you need. So what helped you step into leadership and own your voice? How did you step in and own your voice?
Thank you very much, Miriam. Like you said, there's so much to be said, and Wumi, Olashubumi, that was great. How did I own my voice and have confidence? The truth is, from my own experience, to own your voice and be confident, it doesn't come at one all of a sudden. You must move even when you don't know when things are happening. For example, there was a time I was posted from Ibadan to Jos, and people thought I was going to turn it down. And I was like, I don't mind, I'm going. So confidence comes from having strong expertise and in-depth knowledge about what it is you have to offer, and that strong expertise, in-depth knowledge, like Ada said, would give you a voice. And during the struggle, okay, now we're talking. It didn't take us one day to get here. It came Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, repeat. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday, every day, consistently doing your excellent work. When you're doing those excellent work, you have wins. You have good reports. You did over 100%. Those wins gives you confidence. The more you win, the more your voice assumes authority. And then that confidence gives you momentum. You can then take on new challenges like, I'm a Christian. The God that gave me lion, David said, gonna give me you Goliath. Yeah. So the more you win, you have momentum. You don't have headwinds. You have the winds rising in your favor. You just soar. So expertise. When I was in retail, I would tell them three immutable things in the name of the stock keeping sheet, in the name of the physical, and in the name of the report and the cash. That means you must balance all three. You understand? If one is missing, go and check these two. If one is missing, so at the end of the day, it was QED. But by the time I was now teaching people these three immutable things when it comes to retail, it was easy for them to understand. If cash and stock is missing, go and look at your inventory notebook and at the end of the day, it gives you expertise. And for customers as well, striking the delicate balance between advocating for the customer and advocating for the business, it gives me confidence that I am striking the balance. While I am advocating for the customer, I am very mindful that the business must is a continuum. It's not here to lose money. This has given me confidence and a voice. I'm able to speak up, challenge status quo. With that expertise, I also have data as my insights. Data does not lie. My former boss, Tolu, she doesn't like words. She prefers figures. She said the numbers don't lie, but story you can tell it anyhow. So you must first of all get the figures to now create your story. If you are creating the story without the figures, your story could take any perspective because truth is relative. Yes, but when you said our target was 100, we did 90. That means we've done 90%. You understand? You can now start your story from there. But you now say we did effort, we did this campaign, we did that one now. What is the figure? So data gives solid insight that helps you with confidence with your voice in the leadership space. Like you said, you wanted to make it fast. Let me not go more than that. But number
Thank
one,
you.
data is very important. Number two, be confident and keep doing the work on a daily basis. Your voice will come out. Thank
Amazing. I love how you tie faith with your work, the three immutable things by which it's impossible for God to lie.
you. Yes,
That actually cracked me up, but
it's a
thank you for
shortcut
sharing
for
that.
anything I do. It's a shortcut. I'll start looking for the immutable things that give me QED.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I also love that you said when you consistently do excellent work, you get wins, and those wins give you confidence, and the confidence gives you the momentum to push harder. Amazing, amazing. So much has been shared today. I hope we will take action. As we're being poured into, hopefully we're not just taking it in, we're actually absorbing and then acting on them. Okay. So Ada, I think you've had enough time to recover. Okay, so over to you now. Many global institutions and organizations are implementing, programs to advance women's leadership and economic inclusion. Can you share some of the initiatives your institutions are driving and how women, both professionals and entrepreneurs, can tap into these opportunities to grow their careers or their businesses or even their impact?
Thanks a lot for that question. No, so when I said I often need to recover, it's not in short bursts like this. But yeah, hilarious. Okay, so thanks Olubumi for the last points that you shared. I had actually put in my notebook when Naomi was talking about vulnerability in leadership. And I think it was Olubumi that talked about elasticity and resilience. I had meant to mention that one thing that we must communicate to our mentees, and I see that I don't know that a lot of leaders do this. I'll come back to your question, Miriam. I don't know that a lot of leaders do this, but I think it's really important, is actually to also share where the roots of our confidence is from, right? You would see that Bumi couldn't finish her thoughts on confidence without touching on faith. I usually say to my mentees that I can't separate my work from my faith. Because what is the thing that actually gives you resilience? I saw a quote the other day that says, you cannot break a person whose strength comes from God. Because every time you think you've hit your wit's end, you're just starting. You realize that you have the strength to just keep moving. You also see that when Shubomi was talking, Shubomi is interesting to see that we have the same core work ethic, which is whatever your hands find to do, do it well. it's from our faith, right? So whether you're Christian, Muslim, your faith should be rooted deeply because you cannot separate it from your work. That's it. I didn't think, I thought you'd be remiss not to mention it. And I thought it was just me, but I've also found that when you listen to, especially women leaders, um, the deeper they get in what they're sharing, the closer they are to the roots. And you find that their faith is just really there as the underlying anchor. So very important that we build that and enrich it. Now, coming back to your question, um, I thought I should mention that because, again, I think it was Mariam and Naomi who talked about how, the world is in a funny place right now. It will always be like that. There will always be turbulence, there will always be uncertainty. But in all of that, you're not going to always have a 1 hour seminar or webinar with woven impacts to hear what you're hearing. It also still goes down to how deep your roots are. So in terms of what we're doing as the IFC, International Finance Corporation, which is a member of the World Bank Group, for those who might not be very familiar with it. So we engage with the private sector arm. And it's interesting that it is through one of the programs that I led here that I met Shubomi, where we work with private sector companies because we work with the private sector, of course. We work with private sector companies to strengthen positive outcomes for women, either through our investments or through advisory. Now, just keeping this short, we've had several engagements, interventions with companies. Time would fail me to begin to share about all of them. But how can organizations or individuals on this call participate? It's one, to keep abreast of information. Information will always go out, but know that information may not come to find you. In some cases, it would, but you have to seek actively. So for instance, at IFC, we have programs that look at funding for women across Africa, which we call Sharing's Africa for female startup founders. We're launching a successor program to Nigeria to Equal, where I met Shubomi, which is called the Nigeria Gender Country Program, where we're also working with private sector companies across access to finance and markets, access to assets, women's participation in leadership, and enabling women's access to more and better jobs. But we're also, what really excites me about that program is that we're now also, working on what I call the twin barriers to women's participation in the labor force, which is lack of access to quality childcare and lack of safety. So bullying and harassment in the workplace, for instance. So we're working on those beneath the iceberg. We're implementing interventions to address those beneath the iceberg barriers that help to get more women into economic participation. But one thing that I would like to leave us with is when you find these interventions, it's not just IFC, it's not only the World Bank, UNGC is also working. We work with the UN Women to get organizations signed up to the UN webs, which UNGC also leads. One thing I would say is while looking for the opportunities, don't self-exclude. So don't look at an opportunity and say, okay, I'm not sure this will benefit me. At least ask questions. I'm not sure I'm qualified for this. At least ask the question. You will not always feel ready for the opportunities, but please still jump in. Most of us here are leaders who have written terms of reference, job descriptions to fill in roles. You know that when you're writing those terms of reference, it's a wish list. If you find someone that meets all of it, then you found an angel from heaven. But usually you put in everything to make it really look good. You want your TOR to look great, right? And then you put it out there, and then people are looking at it and thinking, okay, I have 8 of the 10. I'm sure they'll be looking for this other 2. Is a lie. Because even we that are putting out those TORs, we know that the 10 over 10 might not exist, right? So dip in your feet in the water and see where it takes you. Don't self-exclude, because again, what happens is when we self-exclude ourselves, we don't help the systems to adjust, right? By just putting ourselves in the path of opportunity, we force systems to change for women, not just for ourselves as individuals, right? As it changes for you, it then changes for the next woman behind you and for the next one behind her. Just think about that, right? The other thing that I would say that I would leave us with is using our voice. One of the things that my mentors or leaders around me helps me to shape or to that's really stayed with me is if there's anything that you own that nobody gave you and nobody should take from you, it is your voice. You must use it. So for me, even within the institution, when we're planning, when we're engaging, when we're designing, when we're putting together deals or advisory interventions, I use my voice. It may not look like there's an opportunity for women in there, but I would always ask. And there's been countless engagements where just because I asked a certain question or challenged a certain assumption, the whole program changed, right? So don't think that, oh, this thing I'm thinking, I'm sure people realize it in the room. They probably don't. Just still speak, right? And seeking for engagements that raise our own standards, that constantly raise the bar. As organizations implement engagements, one of your litmus tests should be, is this engagement going to help me lift the standard or lift the bar? Even when you're working with people that want to support you, you need to ensure that these are people that put the standard so high you have to stretch to get there. Because if it doesn't stretch you, then you're just the same, right? I on this side, and maybe Shibomi, Naomi, and Bumi, you'll be able to relate. On one of the things I hear a lot is, oh yeah, women are overtrained, women are overtrained. They say they're overtrained. The truth of the matter is you can never be overtrained because for every engagement that you have, it's like going to the market. You're not going to remember everything in that engagement, but at least you have one thing that you take out of there to improve and upgrade your toolbox. So it is not about getting everything in each program. Get what is relevant, put that in your toolbox, move on to the next, and just keep growing. I'll pause there. Thank you, Mariam.
Thank you so much, Ada. Very quickly, sometimes these programs that you've shared are amazing, lots and lots of opportunities. And then you also highlighted the value in seeking information. Sometimes the information might not come to you, but I have heard where people talk about the application process for some of these global institutions, feeling like a a black box, if you like. What is just one common mistake that you see that women make when they try to access some of these resources or, opportunities that you've shared, that you have in your organization?
Okay. One common mistake is underselling.
Hmm.
So not I don't want to use the word packaging, but not articulating your skills in a way that matches the language of the organization. And I'll share one very practical example. I used to be in this mentoring circle in my previous organization, and one of the things that the mentor did for us was to make us to start buying the Economist magazines, right? And he used to say to us, the Economist magazine gives you a summary of what's happening in the world, number one. Number two, there's job adverts in there from global organizations. Go and use that to understand how to craft your resume and how to sell yourself, right? So for instance, you're in banking, you are a bank manager. I'm using this as a very basic example. What do? You manage cash, you manage branch operations, maybe you're in operations, you manage the vault, etc., etc. What skills can you take out of there to an international organization? When you're submitting your CV, that's not what you're going to be saying, right? When you're selling yourself, you need to sell yourself in the language of the organization. And that doesn't just jump on you because you looked at a mirror in the morning and then you head to the interview. You prepare, right? So if there's one thing I would say, it is underselling and underestimating ourselves. A lot of people I'll say personally, let me say this, not blowing my trumpet, but at least there's been 3 people that have come into these organizations through me supporting the process, right, for them. And one of the things that I always find is their first submission is poor. And I'm like, but you've done this, you've done that, you've done that. So you need people around you that even help you to see yourself in the light that you should be seeing yourself in, right? And I think maybe that's one thing you can do. Find people within the organization that can help you take a look at yourself, tell you what they see that is sellable to the organization. I hope that helped.
That helped a lot. Thank you so much.
If you would permit me, just one more example on using our voice, right? I had an engagement sometime last year. We had this Gates luncheon with Gates partners, Gates Foundation partners,
Yeah.
and I met this lady who had met me, but I hadn't met her. She'd met me on LinkedIn. And after I introduced myself, she was like, oh, yada, yada. I followed your LinkedIn profile she said, I followed your LinkedIn profile to move from banking. That, she was just thinking she wanted to move to development organizations and she couldn't find anyone that had done it. And she stumbled on my profile and she just said, oh, if this person has done it, then I can do it. What did she do? And then she started looking, and she used that. And now she's with Women's World Banking. She was working with Women's World Banking when I met her last year. So for me, one of the things I've even taken out of this call is that I'm going to go back to LinkedIn and I'd stop posting in a long while. But in terms of giving back, is to just, share
Share.
our story as well, because you never know who is looking and who could use that as a template. Back to you.
Thank you. Mentorship from a distance, right? It's not always attacking people and say, mentor me, mentor me. You can actually learn from their journey from a distance. And yes, please let us share, 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 and share. And go and buy the economic magazine. I'm sorry, I must always add some humor. It's how I roll. Life is not always that serious, but very important. By that, I will, so that I can get ahead in my life. Okay, so over to you, Naomi. I hope we're having an amazing time. We're wrapping up shortly, so please be patient with us. I'm sure you're learning a lot, right? So very quickly and final question, Naomi. From your perspective, um, at the United Nations Global Compact and the UN Global Compact Network Nigeria, where do you currently stand in advancing gender equality globally? And what are some practical ways organizations can move from pledges to real measurable progress in advancing women's leadership and economic inclusion? It's a mouthful, but I mean, I'm sure you can break it down.
Yeah.
I'll pick the part you want to respond to. Thank you so much.
I mean, it's okay. Thank you, Mariam, and really great submissions from Ada, Shubumi, and everyone. This has been a very, very interesting conversation. It's just good to see that people share your experiences in different spheres of life, and I'm so happy to be here and learn from everyone. Shubumi's comments on, and I think it was under her role working with his excellency with Sanusi. I think it was under her role that we met as well when we had engagement with the UN Global Compact. So just to say that I have to echo everybody's words when it comes to how you want to work hard, stay working hard, and that will also open opportunities for you. Um, Talking about Bumi's experience on working even on Sundays, it just took me back home a long time ago on how I used to stay at work in the weekend as well, just to work, prepare your cases. I think being an attorney gave me all the confidence too, because way back, getting called to the bar very, very early in my life, very early, I think I was 22 or thereabout. It was surprising to see being in front of a judge most of my colleagues, when there's a hard case in the courtroom or we are bringing it to the firm, some people say, that judge, I don't like the last time I was in court, the judge was rude to a young lawyer, so I don't want to go. But I'll say, give it to me, I want to go. I can't really tell where that confidence came from, but I think it was mainly when I studied the case and I know what to say, I know how to examine, I know how to cross-examine. That's all the confidence I need to go to court. So I spend more time studying for my cases, and when I feel like I know how to deliver and help that client, nothing stops me. So hearing Bumi talk about how she works extra hours in the office just took me way back to how we were preparing for cases in the court in the law firm. I think it really helps a lot. And hearing Ada also speak to how she posts on LinkedIn and somebody just reached out. I have had some people ask me if I have a comms person managing my LinkedIn. I said, no, it's me. I really write those things myself because I connect to when I want to write, I think a lot and then I want to really tell people or write my thoughts out loud. So if a lot of people reach out to say, oh, I really appreciate what you're doing. They want to be like you help them have conversations on how to move forward. If there are opportunities where there are global events and some are paid and you can help people like you get through those rooms without having to pay or just access to opportunities, it gives me joy to be able to provide that. And when we meet in those rooms, we have conversations or come and network. Some of us are really shy. Some people were raised to be quiet, meek. When you even get into the rooms of opportunities, you don't even know how to go and say, hello, can I talk to you? So it's always good to have people you talk to. Say, everybody's like you. They just have access. So when you get into those rooms, go and introduce yourself, tell them what you do, sell yourself. Ada spoke about on the selling. And as Nigerians, there's a common phrase in the US where we say Nigerians have knowledge. A lot of us have knowledge. We're empowered with knowledge, but perhaps some of us don't have that confidence to really talk or to go talk to somebody. And especially some women like us. So, but people in the global world, they really don't have that, but they have the confidence. So when we match the knowledge and the confidence, we are absolutely unstoppable. And it's something that we want to cultivate as we progress in our career or whatever we're doing. So really, really appreciate all the comments. Then on the perspective from the UN Global Compact side, it's currently CSW 70 week in the UN, and there's so many conversations going on around how to support women. There's so many contested conversations and resolutions that are going on at the time. And we can tell that the global community has made progress on gender equality, particularly in access to education and political representation. But we know that we remain underrepresented, especially in corporate leadership, technical roles, high value sectors. And then there's barriers to pay equity. The gender pay gap is we're not just saying it, it really does happen. There's also the barriers to recruitment, access to procurement opportunities. They really do persist. And I think it was McKinsey's studies that say women continue to be underrepresented at every level of the corporate pipeline. And so we need to do much more. And then when we talk about closing the gap, we know how important it is for social justice, for economic growth, especially for countries like Nigeria, where aiming to be inclusive, to be in resilient economies is really tough. So what we do at the UN Global Compact, the Nigeria office is the country office for the UN Global Compact globally. So we continue to provide our companies with the actionable guidance that they will need to translate this gender equality commitment globally into local measurable results. So we have the Women Empowerment Principles, which is a set of principles that empower women in the workplace, the marketplace, and the community. It was co-developed with the UN Women. I think IFC also is working to embed the principles. I think they've had initiatives with the NGX before. So when companies follow the WEPs, we can be sure that they ensure equal opportunities in procurement and supply chains, and they establish mentorship and capacity building programs to support women through their careers. Then the Global Compact also have what we call the Target Gender Equality Accelerator. We support our companies from going beyond pledges, by assessing their current gender performance. A lot of companies will tell you, oh, we're doing a lot in gender, we're doing this and that. But when they apply a gender lens to it, they see that there are really lapses. So we begin to, the TGE accelerator, as we call it, they identify the gaps in their leadership, in their workforce composition, and their supply chain participation. Then it helps them to set measurable goal So when participating organizations benefit from their peer learning, their workshop and expert guidance. Yesterday I was at Lafarge, Africa, their International Women's Day, and it was really great to see what they're doing on sustainable, gender responsive procurement and how they support women in their supply chain. So initiatives like our gender equality, target gender equality accelerator continue to enable these companies to integrate gender equality into their core business strategy. It just has to be part of them, not just delegated to one sector or one department in the organization. So when they integrate it into their core business strategy, we're helping them to track progress. We're ensuring there's accountability, and then there's practical outcomes that will be included, which will increase female representation and the creation of policies that support career returners and new mothers. MTN has done that. We are mentioning the names of these companies because we work directly with them in Nigeria. So I'd say finally, we at the Global Compact, we continue to encourage the adoption of gender responsible business strategies that extend beyond internal operations. And it will include, like I mentioned, procurement policies that support women-owned businesses. There'll be flexible work arrangements. Women don't have to be punished because they have to make a family. So flexible work arrangement is very, very important, and inclusive policies that address the realities of our caregiving, parental leave, and work-life balance. Happy to share that a lot of our companies are already aligning in that regard in their everyday operations. I know a lot of companies who I have friends that I'll tell you I'm going on paternal leave. I said that sounds great. It means your policy is really stepping up to the modern day realities of gender advancement. So that is in a nutshell, that is what the UN Global Compact do. We continue to measure our progress from companies embedding their gender equality into their daily decision making. And we call on everyone here in watching us or being in this webinar today to be a part of that movement, because it's very crucial to continue to support women in the workplace, even those in the marketplace, and even around your community. It plays a very crucial role, and we have to keep doing that to make sure that women are properly placed and that they're really advancing in their various life journeys, including their careers or on whatever they set out to do. So I'll stop there. I can talk about this for for
We can
another
tell.
hour. So let me just pause.
We can tell. Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much for sharing all of that. We appreciate it. Do we have time for one quick question? Yes.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, we could take one quick
Okay.
question. Yeah.
Yeah, because are there any questions in the chat? MC, is there any question in the chat that you quickly want to read out? Any very pressing question that has not already been addressed?
And if anyone wants to, verbally ask their questions, they can, put up their hands and
Yeah.
put upon. Yeah.
Going. Gone. Okay. I mean, you can follow all of these women on LinkedIn. I definitely will be doing that, and learn more from their journey, reach out to them, so but we'll be wrapping up now. It's been
We have a hand up.
okay.
Yeah. Victoria, good news. So do you want to ask your question?
Yes, it's
Please go ahead.
okay. Good day, everyone. I'd like to say thank you to Women Impact Network for this amazing session. I really learned a lot, and I think but I say lucky to be in this kind of room with these amazing women that have gone far in their careers. So thank you very much for that. So, my question, um. It was mentioned that we should share our stories, and because we can't tell who is looking and can use that as a template for their own lives. I think this was mentioned by Ada earlier. So I want to ask that in sharing our stories, are we supposed to just share our achievements, because on LinkedIn, that's usually what is seen, our achievements. I just became this I just finished this course, stuff like that. So are we just supposed to share our achievements, or we are also supposed to share the other side of the story, our struggles and all of that? Maybe we can find help, from someone online. So that's just my question. Or should we just keep that part, closed, while we just share the wins alone? Thank you.
And who is your question targeted at, or can anybody answer?
I think anybody can answer.
Okay.
I think Ada was about
I'll
to.
go.
Okay, everybody wanted to, I actually wanted to go.
I unmuted. Let me mute.
No, please.
No, you can go, me.
Okay. Victoria, thank you very much. So you remember what Ada said about underselling yourself. I'm not saying don't share the bad news, but LinkedIn is a platform to put your best foot forward as a woman, as a leader, an emerging leader. So for me, it's an opportunity to put your best foot forward. You could also write articles about where you failed. I've had places where I failed, but you need to make those articles, make it failing forward. You understand? If you have failed, what did you learn from your failing? What are you going to do differently? How are you going to change it? It won't happen again because you've learned. And then you're sharing it for people to learn where you fell so that they don't fall into it. But practically, upselling yourself on the LinkedIn profile is much to your advantage. But once in a while, let me tell you, the failures might be much, but that is not the story people want to hear. In a platform like this, we can bare our hearts, cry, whatever. But if we want everybody to take us serious, remember you are a female. There is a bias. When that bias comes into play, when you are playing your negative tune, it does not go well for our narrative of women can do it, right? However, you can still fail forward, learn from it, put it out there. But I think the LinkedIn platform is to let everybody know that you are up to the task. That's my own opinion.
Ada, your hand is up. In, you want to share quickly in a minute?
Yes, very, very, yeah. I'll do 90 seconds. So thanks for giving us that word, Olubumi, feeling forward. But I think one of the things I would like to, two things I would like you to remember. I forget the name of the lady who has goodness. I think that's her name. Um, Two things I would like you to remember is that there's a place for everything, right? And there's a time for everything as well. So when we talk about sharing struggles or challenges, when she shared and tied it back to, when she finally moved out of it. Now, did she have spaces where she could share before the end of the tribulation of many applications, if I'll put it down, if I'll put it that way? I'm sure she did, but it wasn't on a platform like LinkedIn. Now, I mentioned LinkedIn as an example in sharing a story. That is not to say that's the only place where you can use your voice, right? You can use your voice even in your own, where you are. There was something I had noted here. And because we've been talking a lot about corporate leadership, career, etc., I wanted to just bring it back home, right? I remember being invited to speak somewhere because of an example I gave about my domestic staff. Now I don't use them, I don't use living domestic staff anymore, but whenever in the past I had to take in a living domestic staff, one thing I used to say to them is, my family is moving forward. Me, my husband, all of our children are moving forward. You cannot stay back. Like you cannot not move forward. So where do you see yourself in the next 2 years? And I help you get there. So I never had a living person that did not either go back to school or go back to business. Why am I saying that? Even in that small community, if that engagement, for instance, wasn't on LinkedIn, sharing with them struggles of how I got to where I was, or challenges that I've had to deal with wasn't on LinkedIn. It was in that space. So you always, this is where wisdom comes in, right? You know what to share, where you're sharing it, why you're sharing it, and how you're sharing it. With challenges, I think the diamond or the gem in challenges is really lessons learned. So sharing lessons learned, for instance, on a platform like LinkedIn would be appropriate. Sharing the rougher stories might be more appropriate for other spaces, but whichever way wisdom leads you, you take. Back to you, Mariam.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Okay, let me just add a comment as well. I think Bumi and Ada have said everything. Yes, you're correct. You need to choose a place and time to be able to communicate that because people can easily misconstrue things, you know? So, like Ada said, when I was going through the tribulations of applications, the people were so funny. Who were my listening ears were my family, you know, my dad, my mom, my siblings, and then my friends. And the people I called to vent and complain, and they will encourage me, oh, we move, we go on to the next. You know, I did not come out on LinkedIn, especially, and I am a very LinkedIn person. My hands are ready to type anytime, but I just knew that wasn't the place. I rather connect with the people I think are in those places I'm looking to apply for my next application. I connect to them and see what they're doing and see how it can help me in my next application. But LinkedIn shouldn't be there. It shouldn't be where you want to vent. And there's a funny story that everybody on LinkedIn says thrilled to, excited to, happy to.
Happy to.
Let them be happy to, because you don't know what they've been through before they are coming to tell you they're happy to. So please just you can write. There's so many things happening in our life right now, so many geopolitical shifts, everything is going on. You even like I said, the CSW 70 is going on. You don't have to be there in person. You can log in digitally, see all the things they're talking about, pick up, write about it, and post it. Anybody can be interested in your article. So let's keep it positive over there as opposed to looking at the site where you're writing your stories or your struggles, maybe one or two, and link it to something meaningful or how you got out of it, as opposed to just being writing something that people may not necessarily want to align with or link with or relate with. Do you understand? So I think I'll stop there. There's a question for me.
For you, yes. Fantastic. I was just going to say, take
Oh
it away.
yes. I really do not know how to respond to this. I think that's where the whole conversation about mentorship and mentee is coming in. That if you do not have that kind of support in a family setting, you could reach out to people who support you as time progresses. Reach out to we're all here, and there's so many of us, and even much more people in higher places that you can want to reach out to say, can you please support me, or I need advice or mentorship on how to move forward. And then you be prepared to suck in the advice and work and act on it. I think that would be very helpful. As for organizations that do that, I'm not very sure of it, but I want to align myself with the thought of mentorship and how that could get or help you move further.
Thank you so much.
I don't know if anyone else have a comment to that question.
I think you've done justice, and we need to wrap up. So thank you so much. If there's one thing that we've learned from this panel today is that power as we know it for women isn't just held, it is shared, right? So we would our challenge to you today, after hearing all of these women share about their wives, their house, we want to challenge you to go out there. If you're in a position of power, identify a woman whose work is brilliant, but her voice is quiet. And make sure on Monday, you're sponsoring her. You're not just mentoring her, you're mentioning her names in rooms that she has not even stepped into. If you're building something, you're an entrepreneur, don't wait to be 100% ready. Leadership doesn't always feel ready. Ask for help. Ask for that meeting. Jump on that opportunity. Ask for that funding. Don't underestimate yourself. Don't undersell yourself, and lead in your own small space. It doesn't have to be at the UN or the IFC or in ETEL or anywhere else, it can be in that small space. Own your voice, use it. That's something you were given and can never be taken away from you. Thank you so much. There's so much that I learned personally from just, moderating this session, and I can only imagine what we all have taken away. Thank you so much for an incredible panel discussion. And I think we'll charge everyone to go out there and lead. We would have a beautiful picture now. If you don't mind, turn on your cameras, be picture ready, arrange the hair, adjust the wig. Oh my God, she actually did it. Oh, wow. And smile.
Let me take it with my phone too.
Okay, are we done?
From my end. I don't know if anyone else is taking.
Fantastic. It's been an amazing time moderating this session. And I would like us to give a big round of applause to all our panelists. Thank you for your time. Thank you for pouring. And I am very certain that you have not poured into stony ground today, at least not for me. If I'm the only person that was impacted here today, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, Shubhami. I appreciate it. I drop the mic now over
Thank
to
you for an amazing moderating
Thank you.
session. It was really fun. I like the laughters in between. We were serious, but a little bit not too serious, so it was great.
Fantastic job. Fantastic job, Miriam. Okay, so over to you, Bolu, and then we
Thank
can
you.
wrap.
Yeah, sure. I just want to say thank you to everyone who spoke today, from Naomi, Ada, Bumi, and also Miriam, for moderating so well. I'll just say, when Shubhumi asked me to be the MC for the webinar, I was like, okay, sure, she's my sister, I'll do it. But I'm just very grateful to be here as somebody who is navigating through her career, being in my late 20s, and also being in the job market and also looking for better opportunities. I'll say that everyone has spoken to me directly one way or the other, from having to be, confident, having to put in your best, whatever work you're doing, and also just Naomi said something about the rejections and being in that season. You just gave me like this notch, just to keep going. And I would also say, yeah, it's been very insightful. It's been very motivating. I'm just like really glad to be here. To close up today, I would give it to Shubomi to, close up today's webinar.
Thank you so much, Bolu.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so delighted about today's session and our conversations. I'm glad that everyone was able to share from their experience, and it's not just like top level conversation where everyone is like, what are they saying? I don't understand what they're saying. It's been very relatable, and for each of us here, we all have we've walked different paths in our lives, but something brought us together, right? And there's some things that have, that is consistent with everyone that has spoken today, which is consistency. Um, you know, putting in the work and ensuring that, you're each day you're, working towards your goal. Stemming out of what I think it was Ada that was talking about, women not, applying for roles properly, opportunities that they qualify for. And I don't know if anyone else is also aware of, this widely cited study where women, it's known that women tend to apply for jobs when they meet close to 100%, just be 100% sure that I'm capable for this role, right? While men, if they're just 30%, they're just 60%, they will go for it and they'll position themselves to grab that opportunity, right? So I would just, the key takeaway from that is confidence plays a key role in, grabbing opportunities. You do not need to be 100% ready, but as long as you're willing, as long as you have the basics, you can do it afraid. I've said yes to opportunities. I've said yes to opportunities to speak, even though I was afraid and I was like, I don't even know what I'm going to say, And then doing that consistently has made it easy for me to, now say yes to speaking engagements or to anchor an event and things like that. So you need to initially do it afraid. I remember whenever I tell people that, oh, naturally I could be shy, and people don't believe it. But it's me working on myself time over time and, having people that push me, that mentor me. And one thing that you should know is mentorship does not have to be structured. Someone has once asked me before that, oh, who are your mentor? Who is your mentor? And I said, you're one of my mentors. And the person like you, but you've never asked me to be your mentor. And I said, from our daily conversations, from our weekly conversations, when I come to sit down in your office and pick your brain, you are mentoring me. I don't need to tell you that, because oftentimes we go to events and women easily, you get someone's card and say, I want you to be my mentor. I want you to be my mentor. And there's really no connection between you and that person. So you can find mentors in several ways, and find that community that works for you, find that community that can support you. As a woman, I saw the question from Sarah as well, as a woman, if you can identify those communities that can understand you as a person and support you to achieve your dreams and achieve your goals, as a person. So, as we conclude, I would also like to just leave us with one thought. The theme, which is the basis of all that we're saying today, give to gain. It reminds us that it's not just all about personal success. It's about opportunities we create for others along the way. And you can't give what you don't have. So my encouragement to everyone today is, be intentional about what you give, your mentorship, your voice, your advocacy, and even your encouragement might be the catalyst that helps someone else step into their potential, which is what we've done today. And I want to thank everyone that has joined us today. Our speakers, I know you are very, very busy women. I know Lupumi is she's in vacation mode, but she still took time out of her vacation to join us. Thank you, Ada. I know, how busy, things can get for you and Naomi. Interestingly, Naomi also sits on the board of Woven Impact Network. And she's been so supportive. And I have some of our board members here as well. I think I saw Folake Lori, who's here. Dikwa Shofora is also one of our board members. He's here as well. He's our E for she. So thank you for joining as well. I think my dad is also there. Oluto Oladipo Shofora, thanks for joining as well. He's one of my biggest cheerleaders. So anytime we're doing something, he's always there, cheering me on as well. Thanks so much for joining. And I wish everyone an amazing rest of the day. Yeah, so keep winning and keep making a difference.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
And Miriam, you did an amazing, you moderated the session so excellently. Thank you so much from the deepest of my
Thanks,
heart.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Nice to meet
Bye.
Thank
everyone. I shall
you.
be in your
Bye.
LinkedIn.
Bye.
Bye.
At Woven Impact Network, we believe that when grassroots women thrive, communities rise with them. So far, we have trained over 100 women and girls in Nigeria, helping them gain business skills, grow their confidence, and launch or scale their businesses. Through our Women Win program, women are learning digital tools, financial literacy, and building income-generating ventures that support entire families.
My name is Adedun Shitu. I'm the program advisor for Woven Impact Network. It's been over 2 years I've been working as program advisor, and it's been a wonderful experience. We've had various programs ranging from the Youth Connect to the Women Empowerment Program, where we train women on how to manage, market, and sustain their businesses. So currently, we're training women, over 16 women, on how they can, manage their business, and it has been such a great experience seeing micro business women that had no idea on how to market their business, become so enlightened and getting, good feedback and even able to help themselves and their family at large. So I'm super excited about what is to come and what we're doing. So you can just support us by volunteering, partnering, or just reaching out to us via our Instagram account and all. And it's been a wonderful experience so far, and we look forward to, impacting more lives, even in other communities. Thank you.
Mommy class captain. I'm very, very grateful for what Impact Network has brought to us. I'm very grateful and very happy.